So I did want to start. I took my inspiration today from Labor Day. So this ought to be fun. You're like, oh. But I hadn't really thought of, I did this with the 4th of July too. Sometimes you just get in the habit of what it is a barbecue day and I sleep in. It's obvious. But what it's about. Does anyone know, let's see, when the first bill to establish that as a national holiday was? What year? 1885. The first bill was introduced into the New York legislature, but the first to become law was passed by Oregon, because they were like, we are tired. We have been going through mountains, and we're lucky to be alive. We need a break. In 1887, and then during 1887, following that year, 4 more states, including Colorado, Massachusetts, New Jersey, and New York, created the Labor Day holiday, and the others followed. And the purpose of it, this is interesting. The form that the observance and celebration of Labor Day should take was outlined in the first proposal of the holiday: a street parade to exhibit to the public the strength and esprit de corps of the trade and labor organizations of the community, followed by a festival for the recreation and amusement of the workers and their families. I wondered who was doing it. Somebody's got to work. But it was the labor unions. They organized it and did that. And it was interesting, this sentence alone: the vital force of labor added materially to the highest standard of living and the greatest production the world has ever known, and has brought us closer to the realization of our traditional ideals of economic and political democracy. It is appropriate, therefore, that the nation pays tribute on Labor Day to the creator of so much of the nation's strength, freedom, and leadership, the American worker. And that's us, too. But boy, I can't imagine building railroads and roads, and there was, it's impressive. We needed a holiday. So the joke is, Labor Day celebrates the contribution of workers to our economy, and we celebrate it by not working. So that got me thinking, you can think about what the hardest work you've ever done in your life is. And it could be in the form of a job. It could be if you're a parent. Cha-ching, done. On the surface, I worked for Federal Express for 5 years as a pickup and delivery courier. It was hot or cold. It was filthy. They were heavy. I had to be able to lift 75 pounds by myself and not kick it. And you had to do it fast. So I set myself up to fail there. It's like, oh boy, you're on a time limit. So you might think of yourself, the particular jobs you've had, and also just the importance that is in our lives, and that whole idea of, are you making a living or living a life, right? And we're always jostling with that, depending on those of you who are retired. Although I heard the other day from one of you, Nancy Smith, said she's busier now than she ever was when she worked, because you're doing some more stuff that you want to do. So I feel like I spent a good portion of my 20s, and even until I got here, just so confused and so worried about what I should be doing. I'm not doing it. I'm not smart enough. Do I have to go back to school? Do I want to make money? Do I want to make a difference? It's just exhausting. And who knows when you're 18 and 21 and 22? What do you want to do? Nothing? I'd like to do nothing for a little while. Some of the young people today have that down pat. Be in the basement, going to eat fried chicken, and you're going to pay for it? Okay. But really where I'm going with this, and where you all led me so well this morning is what I've come to realize the truest, hardest work of our lifetime, as Bev indicated, is the inner work. That no matter what is happening outside of us, in our personal lives, certainly in our world, in our community, it all is coming through the lens of our own personal, usually, unless we're paying attention and doing some work around it, our resentments, our pain, our sadness, our unresolved grief, you name it. There's something filtering how we see things, right? And so, interestingly, sort of, now that I'm 40, I finally see that I can continue to say those people or those kids or my parents, I spent a lot of time doing that. Or I can recognize the life that's trying to live me, and those are actually experiences that get me to know me. It's not always fun, it's not always pretty. And so I coined this talk, the hardest and the most important work of our lifetime is cleaning out ourselves. And how is that a spiritual process? Well, beneath all of that, all the hurt, the resentment, the rejection, the fear, you know yours. You name your. I dare you. Everybody scream out your favorite. I'm scared to death. There is our spiritual essence. And for whatever reason, it takes us a while to dig back down into that. I was thinking of how I sort of think of how this all worked out, okay? I've got it all figured out. In Unity, I'll give you the Unity version. So God as source of all, we talk about divine mind, spirit, wanted to experience itself in the physical realm. It wanted to have some fun with us, people. And we get here and we are like, those parents? I don't want those parents. This body? Oh, this body's no good. I don't want this body. That is not going to be my partner. Those kids? What should I do? What should I do? What should I do? How much money should I make? It's like, whoa. Let's go ahead and experience. Yes, and I don't mean to make light of the fact that we do have to make a living and the fact that we do have trauma in our family of origin or any set of circumstances that we fall into that is painful, that is difficult, that if left uncovered will taint our experience of the world forever. And our job, the hard work that we are to do, is to dive into that. And however you do that, I mean, there's nothing like a good therapist. There's nothing like a good group. There's nothing like journaling, jogging, all the things that we do to deal with what's coming up. Or the problem, I think, is when we don't, right? And then we're out in the world and we're triggered in the grocery store. Or we show up at the family meeting and just shut everybody down. However we show up. We're not taking care of our inner self. And so to show up is going to be a limited version. Does that make sense? To bring that, of course, I've got to quote Charles Fillmore because David always does. This is what the Revealing Word says about looking at the metaphysical meaning of the object of work. The true object of all work is to express the powers of one's being to benefit humankind. So, you have to first recognize your true powers. You have to first begin to recognize, as all of you are, your connection to something bigger than you, and that it is sourcing you, breathing you, living you. And then begin to take up practices that will help you hone that. And so we talk a lot about prayer and meditation, and I realized I had a good little saying here. Okay. That Unity bases its form of prayer on affirmative prayer. And David did a wonderful talk a few weeks ago to say that doesn't mean you can't pray any other way. Affirmative prayer is aligning with the truth that we already know, that is not showing up in our life, and affirming and claiming the truth of my being is whole, well, strong, and free, or whatever that is that you are working on. But you might start with, God, help me. I am upside down. There's nothing wrong with that. But in general, as we work up in our prayer life, what we're ultimately doing is working to align our own minds, our own beings, back to that source and to let it fill us up. And then we go back into, we don't just stay on the meditation cushion. That's where the rubber meets the road, right? We go back into the world to be that presence that is more fully aligned with your truth, with your wholeness, with your power. And it's less likely that you get pushed. It's still not fun. I mean, I don't know. You walk outside today, you get pushed. There's a button. There's so much going on in every direction. And I think now is the time, more than ever, that we each take the responsibility to look at what is ours to do, to clean up what's in there. And we all have it. And then to continue to align ourselves with that higher truth of being, with that higher source that wants to be us, know us as us, and maybe, God forbid, have a little fun. I might end with this quote. I've got two quotes, one from Eric Butterworth, whom we love, because he sums it up very nicely. This is from his, he did a class, a correspondence class that you can find on truthunity.net. Might be unitytruth.net, I never know. I'll help you if you want it. So he says it like this. It's a little bit long, but I think it's worth it. Most of us have been conditioned to feel and to believe that our lives are the result of the environment, that our lives are formed by relationships with our parents. Our lives are made by what we have implanted in our consciousness through education, through the influence of the world. Our lives are totally dependent upon what happens to us and what we amass out of the world's wealth and so forth. This begins almost like a compulsion with us. It's like I say, a child is almost unconsciously fitted early in life with a begging bowl, and he goes out into the world with his begging bowl, begging everywhere for love from his parents, for money from the marketplace, for reassurance from people, and so forth. He's always begging, and he feels that his security and his success in life are directly indicated by what he amasses in his little bowl. If he doesn't get much in his bowl, then it's because people didn't love him, people were unkind, everything was against him, and so forth. Therefore, the concept, in this moment, he's teaching about the transcendentalists. So he says, therefore, this concept of the transcendental approach, which Emerson espoused, which Unity has connection with, that life is lived from within, that a person comes into life not empty, going into the world to be filled from all sides, but the person comes into the world as a dynamic creature to be discovered and released. All the world out there can do is provide the challenge to awaken that imprisoned splendor within. Boy, we've got some big challenges right now. So let's awaken the splendor within and release into the world. I think that was well said. And lastly, Lao Tzu says this: if you want to awaken all of humanity, then awaken all of yourself. If you want to eliminate the suffering in the world, then eliminate all that is dark and negative in yourself. Truly, the greatest gift you have to give is that of your own self-transformation. So, that, I think, could be our hardest work, and yet the most readily fulfilling in our own experience and in the experience of all the people that we come in contact with and with the world itself. So it's a small task. You deserve tomorrow off.